G'day everyone, my name's Matt and today I'm going to be fitting this. This is a Two Brothers Veil 2 muffler slip-on system to this, which is a 2006 FZ1-N, sometimes called the MT1, not to be confused with the MT01 by Yamaha. This is a slip-on exhaust system. It does come with another pipe, which we'll have a look at in a minute. And I'm going to go through the steps to get this on the bike. But before we do any swapping of pipes, we may as well have a listen to how this exhaust sounds fully stock. So let's start her up. So that was just free revving up to about 7,000 RPM. I'll do the same when I put the new exhaust on, but I'm going to strap a GoPro on here if I can and go for a bit of a ride up and down the street before I swap the exhaust over so we can get a bit of a comparison that way too. So I just want to take a bit of a look at what's actually included in this exhaust kit when you buy it from Two Brothers. So this is the little bag of parts that you get, and obviously you get the pipe itself. The pipe. As you can see, the pipe comes with basically like a blank flanged end. You can see straight through these two, which is cool. But the idea of this blank flanged end is to allow you to get your final adjustment right before you crank everything up tight, so that it looks good on your bike and you can get it sitting exactly how you need to. So inside the kit, we've got some stickers, which is always nice. You've got an instruction set which is specific to your bike. In here they actually give you an Allen key, which is nice. There's some gasket material. There's a number of bolts and small fittings, so I'll cut that open in a sec. You get this is the fitment ring that holds the well, it's a bracket basically that holds the exhaust onto the, in this case, the pillion foot peg. So that wraps around the exhaust and holds it on there. I'll set a muffler clamp, it says. And then you get the stainless sort of flange pipe, I suppose, that goes from your original exhaust up to the new exhaust. Now, like I said, you get instructions specific to your actual bike. So, and they are reasonably detailed, actually. Like, hopefully you can see that alright. But you get little individual pictures for each step. You get your description of all your bits. There's a picture of the FZ1. That's the phaser. It's not the same as the one I've got, but there's 3 pages here of really detailed instructions. So different styles of exhaust, pictures. So remembering that these exhausts are made in the US, it sort of stands to reason that they should include some reasonably detailed English instructions, so that's going to be handy. You've got your Allen key, you've got a banjo ring to replace the original one, because I think this exhaust is a little bit bigger where it clamps on. Got these are sort of the two, they're CNC machines, they're really light. These are the fitment rings that will go onto the back of the new pipe. Get them to go together. There we go. They go into the back of the new pipe, like that. Allow you to adjust, adjust how the muffler sits on the end of this bit of pipe here. So that will go through there, and we'll clamp around like that. So that allows you to turn this bit of exhaust pipe to get it in the right spot. So that's cool. Don't drop anything here. So they actually give you a whole small tube of Permatex Black, which is the high temperature exhaust silicone that they make, which is good. It's something that most exhaust companies probably may not do, is give you some gasket maker. And that we're going to smear a bit of that around inside here, where this will slip over the original exhaust, just to make sure that everything's a really nice neat fit. And we'll probably also smear a bit around the inside lip of that, where it joins up to the edge of the muffler, just to make sure that it's nice and snug. And then there's just a couple of washers and bolts and things that you'll need to fit everything off. So, and your stickers you can put all over your car, and your helmet in the back of your bike, and whatever you want to put them on. So that's what's in the kit. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we see the stock system on the bike. These things are pretty heavy. I'm told this whole assembly here, back to the point where it connects to the pipe, is around 12 to 14 kilos, and part of that weight is due to Yamaha, in their infinite wisdom, putting this on here. Now this is an exhaust valve. They call it the X-up valve, but essentially it's a bimodal exhaust valve, so it allows the exhaust to essentially open and close the width of the pipe, or change the diameter of the pipe depending on the revs of the bike. The idea is to create more back pressure on the motor and give it a bit more downward grunt. But I suppose there's a lot of restriction in here as well, so by taking the cables off this and changing the exhaust system, we're not only going to lose about 10 kilos of weight, but we're also going to let the engine breathe easier. So it's a win-win. If you pair it up with a different computer system on the bike, like DynoJet system, the Power Commander, you could probably get some really good gains out of this system. So what we're going to do first is zoom this camera in. So that is essentially the exhaust valve cover. So we need to remove these two cables from under here. Essentially, you can't just take the whole unit off the bike because it'll throw an error code. You have to remove these two cables from there and from where they join up underneath the tank of the bike. So we're going to start down the bottom here. We're going to take these two bolts out, take the cover off, and then we're going to undo these two cable ends, which will make the cables loose, and we can pull them out of their little mount. So I'm going to go grab some tools and then I'll get it done. So unfortunately in this case, someone's maybe had a hack at this before on this bike, but the top screw, which is down in there, where is it? There it is. To get this off, these are 5mm Allen keys, I should have clarified. But someone's had a go at that top one before and it's rounded out. So I've just had to bend this cover up out of the way, but you can see there where the cables run in these little guides, and you just really got to wind them up with the top and pop them out. So you undo these 10mm adjusters at the back there. This is a 10mm spanner. Undo them, they come loose, they just pop out, and then you can pull the cable around enough to get them out. Okay, so there you can see the two cables are removed. just hanging there like that. They just have those little ends on them. Ends up inside that. So if you end up in the same boat as me and you can't get one of these undone, if you have to butcher this to get it off, the chances are you're probably not going to put this stock exhaust back on ever. So as long as you can get one of these undone, bend it up out of the way like I just did, you can reasonably easily get these out just with your fingers in behind here. It's not actually too bad. So now that we've got those undone here, we've got to come around the other side. Okay, so the next step is to take the rear seat and front seat off. The other end of those cables lives just under the front seat at sort of the front here. So if you've never taken the seats off your FZ1 before, fortunately they made that pretty easy. Just get your key, put a slot down beside your front seat, put the key in there and turn it, your rear seat will lift off. The front seat is pretty much just as easy. If you reach under here, you'll feel there's a little tab sort of running up and down. Just grab that tab and push it across towards the left hand side if you're facing the front of the bike, and that'll unhook from that little latch just there, and the front of the seat hooks in under there. So it comes off really easily. Now what we're looking for under here, if the camera will adjust for the light, is that there. So essentially this here is where those two cable ends come into. So that's the other end of our cables there. So what we need to do, take this little fuse holder out of the way. We're going to undo the bolt that sort of holds this jigger in, pull it out the top. Then we're going to take that cover off and undo the cables from the top. Remember I said you can't take this is the actuator for that valve, so you can't take this actuator out completely because the bike will throw a fault code, and from what I've heard it'll put itself into a limp mode. You don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and undo that, take this off, and then we'll have a look at it. Okay, so that's just a 10mm nut that holds that on there, and then the whole thing is literally just sitting on the nut and a little plastic tab there, so it just pulls forwards. Now there are just two Phillips head screws that hold this plastic cover on, so we're going to get those undone, and then it's basically a similar thing to what was at the bottom. So we just need to get these cables out of their little guide, and then we're right, we can put it back together. So hopefully you can see that okay. So essentially once you get those two screws out, these ends of the cable just sit in little plastic holders. The cables themselves, because they're now loose at the bottom, we can just flick them around. So that's one of them out. And now the other one. There we go. So that's those cable ends out. So now we can hopefully wiggle these cables free, like that, and that, and there we go. So there's both of our cables loose at the top. We can put the cover back on the actuator, because this is still going to move regardless of whether we've taken it off. The cable's off, the bike doesn't know that the cables aren't there. That's the important thing. It still thinks it's actuating the exhaust valves and doing what it's supposed to do. So we'll pull these out from the bottom, and then we'll go ahead and get the exhaust off. But we're going to put this back on first, so we'll get the cover back on there. Cover just sits on like that. So with that cover back in place, we can now slide the actuator back over its little thread and its mount, and grab its 10mm nut, socket wrench in this case, back up. Like so. And remember to put this fuse holder back where it was. There we go. We can now put our seats back on. As long as those cables aren't going to get stuck under them. So you just sort of slide the front in, like that, and click it down at the back. Alright, now we're back down the side. You can see our cables are still just sitting there. Oop, there's a little cable tie up here. I have to loosen. So they run through it. There they are. There's a little steel cable guide behind this heel plate too. So that's the cable. It's not real long. So we're just going to put that aside with the rest of the exhaust. It's not going to go back on there. Now the next bit is hopefully the easy part. To remove the rest of the exhaust, we just have to undo this bolt just here and undo that clamp down there. There's really nothing else holding this exhaust on there at the moment, so we're going to go ahead and get some more fittings for the socket wrench. I think that one's a 17. That one down there looks like a 14 to me. So we'll grab those and we'll undo them, and we should just be able to wiggle the exhaust off. Okay, so a little bit mistaken. It's actually a 14 and a 12. So don't get those confused. Now that's all just sitting loose at the moment. There's actually like a nut in part of the mount at the back of this, and that one down there is just a clamp. So as soon as I finish taking the long bolt out of that, should be able to give the whole thing a good wiggle, and off it comes. Now what you're looking at there is the catalyst, or the catalytic converter material, which these exhausts kind of have moulded into them. It's down, if I just zoom out, in the end of the pipe, and it sits about probably 12 to 15 centimeters back, so you may or may not choose to do something about that. In this case I'm not, because I don't have the tools, the appropriate tools to remove it. You will need a very long drill bit if you're going to do anything about it, and you'd have to drill all the way around the side, I reckon, and pull it out with a long pair of pliers. So yeah, like I said, you may or may not choose to do that yourself. So just putting the exhaust together here, Two Brothers system. So essentially you just put you've got to flip that rubber around and loop the little edges over on the clamp. We'll use the existing Yamaha bolt, but they do supply you with a new lock nut because the other one comes off. These two little aluminium clamps just slip together over this steel pipe and then slide all the way forwards, and they just screw into there. They're a really snug fit because there's little tiny locking tabs just in behind there, and then of course the banjo clamp just goes on the end there. So we're just sitting it together for now. We're going to go and set it on the bike and then get it in the right position, tighten everything up. So there are the two exhausts side by side. You can sort of see just in the mufflers there's a fair bit of size difference just in the bulk of the things. Also obviously the Two Brothers one doesn't have the valve on it, but when you pick these things up, this one weighs about 2 kilos. This one, to pick up with one hand as it struggle at full reach, it would weigh 12 to 14 kilos, no worries at all. So we're definitely dropping a bit of weight here. Now we're going to fit it up to the bike and see how it looks. Before we do fit it to the bike though, remember this black Permatex that they gave us? What I'm going to do is squeeze some out and put a smear all the way around the side of this, just to really help that new pipe seal against it. The last thing you want is a little bit of air leaking out around here. You'll hear it just faffing away like a little fart out the side of your bike, especially at revs. So we're going to go ahead and do that first, and then we'll slip the pipe on. Okay, so there's the Permatex smeared on there. You can be fairly generous with this stuff. I mean, they're giving you a whole tube, so don't be scared. Wear a glove though when you put it on, because it's the sort of stuff that will stick to everything. So there it is. There's the exhaust sitting on the bike. It is a little bit of a wiggling act to make sure that this is far enough forwards that it can sort of socket all the way home on the original pipe. Why isn't this focusing? There we go. And also to make sure that the top of the pipe itself doesn't foul on the bottom of this foot peg. So you've kind of got to play with the angle of this pipe. You can twist it around while it's all still sitting loose up here and down the bottom there. You can twist it all around to get it in the right spot. So now that I'm fairly happy with how it looks, if you look at it from the back, it's sitting nice and sort of straight with the bike. Looks fantastic. So this is for the centre stand. This is obviously designed for the Phaser model, which does have a centre stand. The FZ1-N doesn't have one, so that's fine. You can just leave that sit there like that. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this up, and tighten these 4 bolts here up, and then we're pretty well done. It'll be time to go and have a listen. And just before we go, a couple of quick tips on doing these up. This bolt at the top here, you'll need a 17mm spanner to tighten or to hold still the supplied nut. Well, you do, this is the original bolt that came out of the old one, so you'll need a 17mm spanner to do that. Make sure when you tighten these 4 here up, you do them in like an opposite pattern, like a diagonal pattern. Just do them up loosely, finger tight first, and then crank them right up. And this one down the bottom here, make sure, if it'll focus, it won't. Make sure that this bolt head is facing out towards the side of the bike, not up in under it, because it's going to be really difficult to get it tight. And make sure that this this clamp is sort of close to the front of the new slip-on as well. Don't put it way back here because it's not going to work. And yeah, that's pretty well it. So, going to get the other camera back out and start it up, and we can do a bit of comparison, yeah? Alright, so there she is installed. Now this is the first start. I haven't actually started the bike yet. I don't know how it's going to sound. I'm sure it'll be magnificent. Sorry about the wind noise. It's a little bit breezy at the front here. I've just got my hand over the mic, but I'm sure once I start the thing it won't matter anyway. So let's have a listen. That's the Valve 2 exhaust installed on the FZ1-N. I'm going to take it for a ride now. I'll do the before and after of how it sounds from the dodgily mounted GoPro there. Sorry about the wind noise on that too, it's a bit hard. The whole install took about 2 hours, including the video bit. So yeah, it's an easy DIY job. I strongly suggest you have a crack at it.